this beginning slides, I will be introducing you to the general introductions to what we are about doing this morning, as well as the context within which this particular presentation is developed, just so that we can all be on the same page so far as this event is concerned. And I am very hopeful that at the end of the 1 hour session, would all have had some level of understanding of what the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management bill contains. We got our registrations fully subscribed. Some participants have not joined in yet, but I mean, Zoom is about time, and so we're zooming in right away. So let me first start by giving a little context and background to the organization that is putting this together, Parliamentary Network Africa. In this section, I will speak briefly about the organization just so that you can have a better understanding of why we are doing this and what benefit it has for you as someone who is participating in this webinar. We'll also look at some of the areas that we focus on as an organization, which all are intended to essentially put the discussions for this morning's webinar in proper context. And so about the organization, PN Africa is basically Parliamentary Network Africa. Parliamentary Network Africa is a parliamentary monitoring civil society organization. We are not for profit organization, an NGO, and we execute programs and projects which are all aimed at ensuring parliamentary openness across the continent of Africa. And when we talk about parliamentary openness, we are talking about the instance where things that goes on in parliaments across the continent are open, accessible, and can be monitored, regularly by citizens, by civil society organizations, by interest groups, so that the work of parliament is not shrouded in some amount of secrecy, and everybody who is a citizen of a country or who is interested in parliamentary work can go about understanding what parliament does. We are based in Accra, for which reason I am zooming to you from my home because I'm working from home. Of course, a rainy morning. I hope that the loud rains in the background will not interrupt our sound quality. We are hoping for the best, even in internet connectivity around this time, even with you also who are joining us from wherever it is that you are joining us from. Now, as an organization, we are by far a leading training organization that focuses on how Parliament works and opportunities to engage with the legislature. And those are our main focus areas as an organization with regards to the work that we do. Now, our four main areas are the areas within which we work. And this context is also supposed to help so that you, our cherished participants, will be able to understand why we are bringing you this training. Our first area of operation is in the area of parliamentary institutions strengthening and support. So in this area, we support African parliaments to develop and implement open parliament action plans. And I explained to you earlier on what open parliament means to us. For us, open parliament means being able to allow parliaments to be accessible, citizens to participate and engage in the work of parliament at every point in time is our focus. And we are very, very interested in making sure that this focus is achieved at all times. Apart from that, we also assess the work of parliament and parliamentary institutions. We have since 2015 been engaging in the work we call the Crystal Ball series, which assesses the performance of parliament throughout the year. We also provide some form of technical assistance to parliamentary committees and departments of parliament across the continent. And then also we help build capacity of members of parliament, and we engage ultimately in legislative tracking and engagement. And it's out of these, our exploits in legislative tracking, that we have tracked the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management bill, and we are bringing you this bill symposium in the comfort of your homes or in your workplaces or wherever it is that you're joining us from live on Zoom. Our second area of focus is in the area we call media and access to information. So in this area, we pursue what we call the concept of democratization of parliamentary information. What does this mean? It means that once Parliament is made up of representatives that are coming from all parts of the country in which the Parliament is based, the information that emanates from that particular Parliament must be open, accessible to every member of society, you know, not only parliamentarians. So wherever the person is based, the person should be able to have access to parliamentary information, irrespective of locality, irrespective of whether it is a marginalized community or whatever it is, whether it is remote or urban. This is one of the things that we pursue as an organization that is interested in and very open to democratization of parliamentary information. We also play a role in protecting the rights and freedoms of journalists who report from Parliament. And since 2015, we have been co-publishing the Parliamentary newspaper, which is a specialized publication that brings information on Parliament and how the institution of Parliament actually works. And again, I will be looking forward to feedback from you, even as we go ahead. You know, I see that you're all joining from various other places. If you're having internet connectivity issues, let's receive feedback. You know, if the rain is disturbing you, let's receive feedback so that we can know how this is going from wherever it is that you're joining us from. Now, additionally, we as an organization convened the Ghana Media Coalition on Right to Information. So I'm sure that a lot of you may have heard about the right to information and the role that media played in actually getting the right to information bill passed. We were essentially behind that particular arrangement as part of our media and access to information program area. Now, our third program area is in the area of accountability, livelihoods, and inclusiveness. And here we help champion the need for MPs to account to their constituents. We support anti-corruption actions and institutions. We facilitate linkages between members of parliament and the livelihoods of their constituents. So whether it's agriculture that makes the main livelihood of a particular constituency or it is trade, we try to look at how members of parliament get involved so that their people can be better served. And we also ultimately ensure that parliaments are leaving no one behind, just as the strategic, the SDGs actually have to say. Finally, we convene and build capacity. And so this particular online symposium is on the back of our convening and capacity building work. In this area, we actually build and support networks of parliamentary monitoring organizations across the continent. We engage in parliamentary advocacy trainings for civil society organizations across the continent. And then also we engage in what we call the Open Parliament Outreach Series, which is a series of various forms of, you know, knowledge sharing opportunities that helps to build the capacity of people on how parliaments work and opportunities that they have to be able to engage with parliament. And last but definitely not least, we engage in this Bill Symposium series initiative, which is the very reason why we have all congregated here on Zoom this morning. And in this Bill Symposium series initiative, we engage stakeholders on draft legislations that have been tabled before Parliament and how it affects the work of individuals, of institutions, and what have you. So this was just to be able to give you some context of what we do as an organization so that this presentation can be better situated and better placed. Now let me move on to speak about some of the bills that we have engaged with in the past. So since 2016, we have used either physical workshops where people join in our venues to have bill symposiums. We have used webinars. We have used in-house trainings where we get to organizations themselves and we train their staff on various bills that have actually been tabled in Parliament. So we have dealt with, since 2016, just like the curve actually shows, we have dealt with the Ghana Deposits Protection Bill of 2016, the Securities Industries Bill of 2016. Mind you, the Securities Industry Bill was that particular bill that regulates the securities industry sector, so the investment companies and what have you. We have dealt with the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Bill. These two bills, the one relating to banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions and the Securities Industries Bill, are the ones that essentially led to the financial sector cleanup that actually happened in Ghana. We've dealt with the Office of Special Prosecutor bill. We have dealt with the Standard for Automatic Exchange of Financial Accounts Information bill in 2018. Of course, same 2018, we did the Witness Protection bill. We've done the Right to Information bill, the Companies bill, which is a major one for corporate institutions. We've done the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Ghana bill, which is one of the webinars that we are holding. And of course, later this afternoon, we will also be doing the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana bill. All of these things are aimed at ensuring that our people are able to better understand what happens in Parliament, pieces of legislation that are laid in Parliament, and then to be able to understand how it affects their work. As a civil society organization, we believe that we have a mandate to make sure that parliamentary things that happens in Parliament are not shrouded in secrecy, and that citizens and people around the world are able to know about these things that happens in Parliament. So these are by way of some of the bills that we have actually dealt with. So let me now go swiftly into this bill symposium series proper and what it portends for us and for you who are joining us. So the first point is that for us as an organization, basically we track all bills, pieces of legislation that are laid, draft legislation that are laid in Parliament. And the reason why we do this is that we recognize that the decisions that parliaments and legislative institutions take have an effect on, operations of organizations, individuals, the sustainability of organizations. And because of that, we have a mandate as an organization to ensure that as many people as possible know and understand the things that goes on in Parliament, because we track virtually every bill that is laid in Parliament. And why we make the case for the reason why the decisions and legislative outcomes of Parliament affect institutions and their sustainability is that in 2016, for example, we tracked two particular bills and we held symposiums like this. Those ones were physical face-to-face symposium. Of course, by then, we weren't too sure about, COVID has not come with the opportunity of having webinars like this. And in those symposiums, we actually looked at two of the main bills that had actually been put up: the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Bill and the Securities Industries Bill of 2016, which were both passed into law. Less than 5 years down the line, these were the same laws that actually served as the basis for the financial sector cleanup. And we know the outcome for many hundreds of organizations and corporate institutions. And that is why we take this seriously, because we think that when laws are passed in Parliament, people must know so that they prepare themselves adequately for the regime that comes with the passage of the law. Again, the Bill Symposium Series, or BSS, is aimed at helping institutions to keep an eye on draft legislations before Parliament or on recently passed legislations. So for example, the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management Bill, as we may learn as I go further in my presentation, has already been passed by Parliament. And so it is part of the piece of legislation that we also speak about when they have been passed in Parliament. And this is to afford enough time for institutions such as yours to put in place your internal measures and structures for the new era that comes with the new law. Because we know that when new laws are passed, it comes with a new era. There are new things that comes with it. People may have to tweak their internal systems here and there. And when we give you heads up well enough, within time, you are able to do well in tracking the bills that actually the laws that have actually been passed in Parliament, and it will serve better for your organization. Now, these Bill Symposium Series initiatives are targeted at business associations, are targeted at corporate Ghana, are targeted at state-owned enterprises, are targeted at professional bodies, are targeted at non-governmental organizations, and whoever it is that is able to participate in such workshops for the common goal that we have actually enumerated above. And so this is also very important to take note of. In the past, we have congregated chief executive officers, CEOs, chief operating officers, heads of legal departments, heads of HR departments, heads of operation departments for various organizations who have participated in such Bill Symposium series in the past. And with the emergence of COVID, we have actually introduced these online sessions, which are to serve as introductory sessions for you to have a bird's eye view of the laws that have been passed or the bills that are in Parliament, so that it will lead us into more detailed workshops. You know, we are able to, sometimes we put together more detailed workshops on some of these bills, where now we bring together members of Parliament who worked on these bills as they were in Parliament, parliamentary researchers who actually track these bills, as well as legal and professional experts who can explain the impact of the bill to the industries within which those laws get to apply. So this is the context within which the Bill Symposium series is placed. And when we hold these workshops, what we also do is that we are able to provide follow-on support through the creation of networks. We create networks for members who attend these workshops. And these members of the networks, we are able to work with them to engage Parliament and parliamentary committees on these bills, and to also for the members to receive real-time updates on what is happening on these respective bills as they are in Parliament. So when the bill is in Parliament, we track it. The members who are on our network, they receive updates in real time on changes that are happening to the bill, what Parliament is considering at a particular point in time, and how it goes to affect the work that they do. So these are the contexts within which the Bill Symposium series is actually designed. Now, I'm showing this diagram, and I'm sure that in your homes or wherever it is that you're joining us from, your offices or what have you, you may be wondering, what is this whole web about? Well, this web is simply how a bill becomes a law in the Parliament of Ghana. So there are several stages that a bill goes through to become a law in Ghana. We have categorized them under 13 separate stages. The stages that are in the white background circles or shapes are the ones that takes place directly in Parliament, and the ones that are in the off-white, I don't know what color that is, are the ones that actually takes place outside of Parliament. So when a bill is laid, it goes through stage 1 where it is laid in Parliament, then it moves to, at that same stage, it is read the first time. We don't have time to go through all of these technicalities, but just to let you know that once it is laid in Parliament, stage 3, it will be referred to a committee of Parliament. Stage 4, the committee sits on it. Stage 5, they present their report to plenary, so that at stage 6 and stage 7, the report will be considered, and every clause of the bill is looked at one after the other and agreed to by Parliament. And then, of course, at stage 8, which is the third reading of the bill gets passed by Parliament. So these are the stages. Of course, when it is passed by Parliament, the bill will have to be transmitted to the President at stage 9, who would assent to the bill. And then when he assents to the bill, it moves directly to stage 12, where the bill becomes a law, and then stage 13, when it becomes operational. But if the President refuses to assent to it, then it goes to stage 10. There are some back and forth legalities to that. And then stage 11. Those are not our interest for this particular workshop today, and so I will not bore you with those. But these are the things that we do in Parliament. We track all of these first 8 stages in Parliament until the bill gets to the presidency for assent. Now, so what does the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management bill actually entail? And here we're going to be giving you highlights of what the bill as was presented in Parliament entails, together with how Parliament eventually molded this bill, which has now been passed by Parliament and will be operational soon. The first point is that the bill has a legislative footprint. So what have been the stages that the bill have actually gone through? On the 30th of January, the current version of the bill that was passed was laid in Parliament for what we call the first reading stage. I showed you that in the earlier diagram. And then on the 30th of January this year, which was the same day, it was referred to Parliament's Committee on Education, which was tasked to consider the bill and make recommendations. The committee, during the month of February, engaged various stakeholders. Some of the stakeholders that were engaged by the committee include the Ministry of Education, which is the mother ministry for the law. It includes the Office of Attorney General for very obvious reasons, because they put together some of these laws, for the executive branch. And it also included the Institute of Human Resource Management Practitioners, CIHRM, which we can say, quote and unquote, are the sponsors of the bill, because they have been the institution that this bill is supposed to help transform into, a legally backed institution that can regulate human resource management practices in Ghana. The second reading stage of the bill, which is where the committee's report, after the committee has done all of its work and has engaged, they present their report back to plenary for discussion. This happened on the 21st of February this year. And then after 21st of February, Parliament had a lot of work that it needed to do. And so it went ahead to hold on to that particular bill to be able to take charge of some other works that it has over the period. But eventually, on the 2nd and on the 4th of June, Parliament considered the bill. They went through the bill clause by clause, approved of each clause of the bill, and were able to make good decisions around the bill. And eventually, they passed the bill on June 4th, where the bill was read the 3rd time and passed. And it's on the back of the passage of the bill on June 4th that we have actually completed our tracking process, and we are bringing you these presentations that we bring to you. So what is the object of the bill that has been passed, and what are some of the background information to this particular bill? The object of the bill, which talks about the purpose for which the bill was laid in Parliament, in this particular bill, the object or the purpose was to, or is to establish the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management, which will serve as the basis to promote professional training in human resource management and to regulate the practice of human resource management in our country, Ghana. So this is the purpose for which the bill was laid. Parliament, in working on the bill, took into consideration a couple of factors. Some of the factors that it took into consideration are that human resource management, HRM, plays a vital role in the development of every nation. Ghana is not excluded from that. Again, Parliament took into consideration the fact that most HR or human resource is the most important asset of every country. You know, it's a singular asset that ensures that there is effective utilization of a country's natural resources, of its physical and financial resources. So Parliament admitted the importance and relevance of human resources to a country's development. Parliament also recognized that HR profession in Ghana is currently not regulated, it's unregulated, and so there was a need to provide a regulatory framework for it. And that there is no professional body with legal mandate, and the emphasis here is legal mandate to provide professional training in human resource management and to regulate its practice in the country. And these were the reasons why it actually laid, and the executive laid the bill, and Parliament was also very instrumental in acknowledging these facts. Parliament again acknowledged that the IHRMP, which is the Institute of Human Resource Management Practitioners, although they have been in existence since 1978 and has since 1981 been registered as a professional body, it lacks the legal backing to regulate, to control, and to set standards and manage specialist practice of human resource in Ghana. And so there were some challenges that were being encountered with that. And that is the reason why the bill has now been passed, and eventually when it gets accented to, it becomes an act which gets implemented, with the IHRMP being the main implementing partner, because implementing organization, because it gets transitioned to become the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management, Ghana. At this stage now, let me move you to some of the content, you know, of this bill, including some of the significant changes that were made by Parliament to it. So the bill, as was presented by Parliament, contains 44 clauses, and it is grouped under 4 broad areas. And these 4 broad areas are in the area of establishing or the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management, Ghana. The other area is on membership and qualifications. The bill also speaks about administrative and financial provisions, because the institute is being set up. And then it also talks about other miscellaneous provisions in the bill, and we will come to all of those shortly. Now, the bill also has 3 schedules, and these schedules include disciplinary committee and procedures for its proceedings, the disciplinary committee's proceedings. It includes meetings of the institute and how they are regulated. It it includes professional misconduct and what it means and how it will be dealt with, you know, under the new regime. And I must say that now that the bill has been passed by Parliament, it will go through what we call the cleanup process by the Parliament of Ghana, where they will insert all of the changes that they have. Because we were tracking it, we have our own cleaned up version. But of course, our cleaned up version is not sacrosanct, because the final act that gets assented to by the president becomes sacrosanct. And so we acknowledge that it is likely that when the final act comes out, you know, the 44 clauses that we alluded to because of the changes that happens to Parliament, maybe more or less than 44 because of some amalgamations that happens. But as we may know, when a bill leaves Parliament and it becomes an act, then it ceases to be called clauses, but it's now called sections. So we acknowledge that the number of sections that will be present in the final act may vary due to, like I said, the effect of the parliamentary considerations that have actually taken place. As I go on, please, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. We will be able to address them and attend to them accordingly. Now, let me move now to the first part of it, which is on the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management. What does this say? The bill actually makes provisions for the establishment of the institute, and the institute is supposed to be, or is established as a corporate body, and it provides for the acquisition of properties by the institute. So the institute can acquire properties because it's a body corporate. In situations where the institute is hindered from acquiring property, then of course we know that, as the rules of Ghana specifies, the State Lands Act would actually be used by government or the state to acquire property on behalf of the institute. This section also speaks about the object of the institute and its functions. So the institute's objectives, their functions are all provided for in the law. The law also provides for a council. So there will be established a council which will be the governing body of the institute when it is formed. At the level when the bill was presented to Parliament, the number of members that are supposed to be part of the council, Parliament amended it a bit. Parliament was minded to add sections which was very explicit on the fact that there must be female representatives, you know, so that it provides for gender arrangements, probably as an affirmative action indication. So Parliament inserted those ones. Parliament spoke about, did amendments relating to the numbers that can be selected by members of the institute and the appointments that would have to come from partner organizations like the Employers Association, like the Ministry of Education and what have you. And then also this particular section speaks to meetings of the institute. So when you get the law speaks about the meetings of the institute, as well as the policy directives that can be issued by the Ministry of Education in the performance of its function. Institute's functions, that has also been provided for in the law, and it's important that we take note of. Now, the other section speaks about membership and qualifications. So there are clear indications on, you know, the categories of membership of the institute, as well as the requirements that you need to enroll into the various categories. They are all detailed in the law. The law makes provision for the procedures for applying to become a member, and also to gain fellowship status of the institution, to be called a fellow of the institute. It also provides for the requirements to register as a member of the institute. So whether it is an organization or an individual who is registering as a member of the institute, these provisions have been made for in the law. And the qualifications for registration as a HRM practitioner are also spelled out clearly, including the requirement for the institute to issue a certificate of recognition on the successful registration of a person as an HR practitioner. There is also the bit about restrictions on the use of the title Chartered Human Resource Management Practitioner. So who can use it, who cannot use it, what qualifies you to use it, are all spelled out in there. And you know, the basis for which a person can be deemed to be a chartered HRM practitioner, you know, as the law is intending to bring up. The use of the designation Chartered Human Resource Management Practitioner has been clearly defined, and it's used by firms of chartered, a firm of chartered human resource management practitioners has also been provided for. So whether it's the individual or it is a firm, these provisions have been made. Hello, am I audible? Hello? Okay, so great. I got the signal of some interruptions. I needed to be sure that you were all okay. Great. I get the indication that you can hear me. That's awesome. So this has been provided for in the bill. These have been provided for in the bill. The bill also makes provisions for, still under membership and qualifications, it makes provisions for conditions under which a member's registration may be suspended, have been provided for. And then, of course, the circumstances under which the council may revoke ultimately the membership of a member of the institute has also been provided for. Now, the law requires that the institute will establish, keep, and maintain a register of members, and it also provides for conditions under which the name of a member may be struck out from the register, and specifies the conditions for the restoration of membership by the council. So all of these things have been spelled out in the newly passed law that have just gone out of Parliament. The law actually also indicates or includes situations where a member of the institute, having successfully appealed against the decision to strike his or her name out, can be reinstated. And this is important also because, of course, as practitioners, we know that appeal process is important in every disciplinary action that gets taken. Matters pertaining to representations to the council and appeals against the decision of the council are also very well clearly spelled out in the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management law. Now, there are provisions relating to the administrative and financial aspect of the work of the institute as has been set up. Parliament was minded to provide for the appointment of a CEO, and of course the functions of the CEO of the institute have also been indicated or highlighted in the law. Provisions have also been made for the appointment of other staff of the council, including the transfer and secondment of other public service officers or public officers to the institute. The institute can engage consultants, can engage advisors, because these have been allowed by the operating law that the institute works with. Then also the law makes provisions for the setup of an internal audit unit, of course, and this is in tandem with the Public Financial Management PFM Act, Act 921. And of course, the functions of this internal audit unit have also been spelled out in the law. The law spells out the sources of funds for the institute, the borrowing powers that the institute has, the fact that the institute can open bank accounts in its name, investment decisions that can be made by the council on funds that are owned by the institute are all stipulated and spelled out clearly in the law. And then, of course, there are provisions on the institute's accounts and audit process, as well as how they can present their annual reports through the Ministry of Education to get to Parliament. So the institute is enjoined to report to Parliament regularly, annually, through their annual reports that have also been made, provisions have been made for. So let me now run you quickly through some of the miscellaneous provisions that have been made in the law. And these include provisions for the custody and use of a common seal of the institute have been spelled out. Of course, for a body corporate, these are very important to be able to ensure some sanity in the system. 5 broad areas of offenses have also been agreed to by Parliament, and the penalties that goes with it, or that goes with them, have also been detailed. So it includes, you know, using the qualification wrongly, not being certified, not having chartered, and using those, all of those things have actually been indicated in the law. The law also enables the minister responsible for education to make regulations upon the advice of the council. I explained the council earlier on as the governing body of the institute, and these regulations shall be laid in parliament in the form of LIs, or legislative instruments. Again, certain key terms, terminologies have been defined in the law, which includes terms like affiliate members, associate members, fellows, honorary fellows, what an HRM firm is, what a human resource management practitioner is, or who a human resource management practitioner or a human resource management trainee is, who qualifies to be a student member, etc. All these have been defined nicely in the law as we have it. Now, other transitional provisions, including the dissolution and savings, if the institute is ever to be dissolved, you know what the transitional provisions are, the resources of the institute at the time of dissolution and transitioning, what the provisions are. All of these have also been nicely spelled out in the new law that has been passed. And so I wrap up by saying that what we have succeeded in doing, trying to do that within an hour or less, is to be able to give an indication to you, our cherished members who have joined us, on the summary of the law. Once I'm done with this, we have the executive director of the CIHRM in the audience, who would also, you know, run a few comments, pass a few comments and remarks. And one of the other things that I have also succeeded in doing is that I have informed you that between now and when the webinar goes off, you can post your chats, your questions in the chat box. When you are posting a question, I'll be grateful if you state your name and your institution. I'll read them out and then we'll address them as appropriate. Once this webinar is over, you'll receive emails that provides questionnaires to be filled to assess this webinar, and also to the reason why it is important that you engage with these questionnaires is it provides you the opportunity to also get other follow-on engagement that are provided by us here at PN Africa, so that you can understand what is going on, what is new, and all of that as we present them to you subsequently. And then, of course, by filling out the questionnaires, we are able to have you in our database so that we can provide you with detailed training programs that are going to be taking place, because like I mentioned to you earlier on, the purpose is that once the bill gets accented to and we have the final bill, there is the need for some outreach to be able to get people to understand the implications of the bill to their work, so that there are HR professionals who would speak to those issues. We'll have parliamentary members who would also speak to matters relating to what they considered in actually getting the bill passed and what have you. And we'll be very happy that you connect with us on social media, so that you will also be updated on the things that happens in Parliament, because like I introduced from the very beginning, there are many other engagements on parliamentary work which as HR practitioners you may be interested in, your staff may be interested in. So connect with us on social media. On that note, I wish to thank you all very, very much. And these are some of the social media platforms that you can connect with us on Facebook, Parliamentary Network Africa. So you can just pick up your phone, search for it on Facebook and follow. Of course, like our page at PN Africa Watch on Twitter, and you can engage with our website, parliamentafrica.com, should you have any questions, or should you have any indications that you would want to actually have. So on this note, I would rest here, and then as I look forward to receiving some questions from you in the chat box, I will now respectfully invite Mr. Ebenezer Agbetor, the Executive Director for the Institute of Human Resource Practitioners, CIHRM, to provide some remarks and to make some comments, while I also look into the chat box for the questions that are coming in. So Ebenezer, if you're there, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sami. Thank you so much. what can I say? A good job done. Certainly, up until now, little did I know, or most of us knew about PNA, that is Parliamentary Network Africa, the work that you do. Certainly, your presentation, first part of it gave us a good insight as to what you do. And I must say you are doing a fantastic job. For us, certainly, this falls, very well into our strategy of possibly educating HR practitioners on the bill. You're talking about the business community and the public at large. And certainly what you've done now is setting the ball rolling for us. We certainly we're going to get more into a serious drive after the presidential ascent. And for that reason, we felt that we will have to kind of stay back and then allow you to do this, which you have done superbly. So once again, thank you so much. We were able to circulate the information on this symposium to our members, and I was really expecting more people to participate, but it looks like we didn't have that many. But having said that, I think it's an excellent attempt, and building up from here will certainly make our job much easier. And I was also glad to note that obviously you've been doing this since 2015, and you highlighted a number of bills that you have carried out a similar activity. And my understanding is that you're going to follow up even this afternoon with my good friend's place, that is the CIHRM, which we have been together in the boat of on this journey for some years now. You're talking of about 15 years. It's been long coming, and we are so thankful that at long last we've got these bills passed. That is the IHRMP or IHRM bill, and then you're talking about the CIMG bill. I know there are other ones that they are still working on, which are yet to come to Parliament, but this is referring to other professional bodies who want this legal mandate. So what I would say is that we will continue to work hand in hand with you. That is the Parliamentary Network Africa, just after the presidential ascent, because we need to be out there to explain the implications of the act that eventually comes out, and what needs to be done by various organizations and what they should expect from the Institute. This also obviously has already got us moving to get things done. As you know, the LI, the internal structures that we also need to kind of beef up to ensure that we are ready when the bill is assented, by the president. So once again, I will say, Sami, thank you so much for what you have done, your team is doing, and this is going to be a relationship that we're going to carry through till eternity, should I say, because you never know. You may go forward some few years down the line, and there may be the need to come back to Parliament, for some review or amendments, which is being done. I know it's being done by ICA. Obviously, they got their bill passed many years ago, but they've come to realize that there are certain sections that they need to kind of get amended. So they are also in the process. So as I said, this relationship carries on for a long time to come, even after the presidential assent, and then we engage this kind of similar activity. Beyond that, I'm sure there's a lot that we'll continue to learn from each other, building capacity both for the practitioners and then the business community at large. So on this note, I will pause and then hand over back to Sammy. But kudos, excellent job done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Beto. And there are some shout outs in the audience for you. Davida Lamte says, it's been a while. But I've seen that there are some questions coming in. I've seen that some members of the audience are raising hands. If you have a question, because of the want of time, we'll rather appreciate you post them in the chat box so we can address them. One of the questions that have come in by Louis Ajiman Benin from the National Banking College is asking that how would other institutions like SHRM and SHRP be impacted by this? Of course, some of the what Mr. Beto indicated that this is just an introductory bit, and of course the institute is not very. I mean, this is not really the platform for all the nuances of the questions, but some of them that he may want to quickly address, we'll probably give some time for that, and some of them also I will address. And then also, Davida Lamte says that this has been long in passing. Congratulations for bringing it this far. What is your advice for people who have internationally recognized HR certifications like SHRM and CIPD, etc.? Of course, this is also related to basically the first question that was asked. We have one from Dr. Nanaya Opon, who says we believe the bill has provisions for disciplinary procedure, then for the professional misconduct, then again for categories of officers. Are there not too many divisions under one broad item? At least the categories of offenses under miscellaneous could come under one of the two main headings. However, with the stage of the bill, we will have to make do with that. But going forward, this could be considered. And then we have Reverend Nicolas Zewa from Kumasi says, thanks, this is a good work. So essentially, the questions that have come in are bordered mainly on, there's another one from Paul. Paul Donko says, Paul Adodonko says, I would like to know what the locus of other HR bodies, okay, that is also related to the first one. So once the bill has been passed, essentially the question is that what will be the locus of other HR bodies now that the law is law? And I think I saw an earlier one also from somebody from NADMO, even as I searched for it. Mr. Beto, if you want to speak to any of these matters, please, you can have the floor.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Sammy. Thanks a lot. Interesting enough, these are questions that have been coming up over the years. Just as we have other professional bodies all over the world, medicine, in the medical field, in the pharmaceutical field, we're talking about even the marketing, we're talking about the accountancy. It's the same thing. If you have CIPD or SHRM, it is another professional body from another country. So yes, you can practice, but obviously organizations, as we know, decide, whether, in spite of the fact that you have a professional qualification from another country. For instance, if you have CIPD and you want to join Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management, we will have to come out with our regulations that we will be able, how we'll be able to absorb you. It's the same thing that you have if you're a medical doctor here and you go to the UK. And for you to practice in the UK, you will have to go through some kind of training there before you can practice over there. The same applies to the law profession. So similarly, we are yet to come out with the LI, which will be the regulation, which will spell out how this is done. So certainly, if you have CIPD, I'm sure institutions, your companies here will decide to employ you. Okay, if you want to be associated with the institute, as I said earlier on, similar to ICA. I mean, if we are holding ACCA or ICAM, I mean, it's all accounting profession from the UK. And if you want to then have something to do with ICA here, then you have to kind of, follow through their requirements. They may ask you to come for an interview. They may ask you to maybe write a paper or maybe practice for some years and blah, 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 blah. So it depends on what they've put in place. So if you are holding a qualification from outside, nobody will bound you from not practicing in Ghana. But then you probably will stand in good stand, by then having an association with the local professional body. Because we have people in Ghana who are working with ACCA, okay? And then we have people who are working in Ghana who, yes, they have ACCA, but they've still gone on and then established a relationship with ICA to make the matters much easier for them. So this is how it goes. The same thing if you hold it here, if you're a doctor, medical doctor here, a lawyer here, you want to go and practice in the UK, you have to go through some of their stuff over there before you can practice. So these are some of the things that we will look at. Because technically speaking, if you hold CIPD, you wouldn't know the Labor Act. You wouldn't, because CIPD only will expose you to what pertains in the UK. So if you want to practice here, the truth of the matter is that the Labor Act, it is peculiar. They may have certain similarities, but there are certain peculiarities that is, pertaining to our Labor Act. So for that, we may say that, okay, for you to practice, then you may have to go through A, B, C, D. But we are yet to kind of fashion out this. But I'm just saying this is how the other professional bodies works out. I hope I've explained myself.
Awesome. And I think that it sums up the points quite clearly, that a lot of the tweaking here and there, like you've said from the very beginning, would actually be done when the implementation actually begins after His Excellency the President has assented to the bill. And so I know that for your members, as they continuously engage with the Institute, they will be able to have more information on this. And of course, as an organization, we are, like you rightly indicated, we are very, very happy to work closely with the new Institute, your office, to work on this parliamentary side of things, because it is important to us. And particularly for the Institute also being one that has HR, experts and HR practitioners. These are the same people who also look out for training opportunities for their own staff who are experts in other areas. And when there are laws that actually relates to these other areas, they also have to know and disseminate to their team of staff, so they can also benefit from some of these symposium. And that is why we were very excited that by the exploits of your office, the cutoff of 100 that we actually gave for this webinar. In fact, I'm surprised not everybody could join. I'm sure probably internet connectivity issues and what have you, but it was oversubscribed actually.
Okay.
And fortunately, because we have the database of these people, we will send them the videos so that they can also be able to relate to the issues, and then we'll all be on the same page for these things. That is the power of technology. COVID didn't bring us all bad news actually, and there were some good aspects to this new era of COVID. So I think that all of the issues have been handled. The questions that relates to the application process and whether there will have to be email engagement with the Institute and what have you, like I'm sure like Ebenezer said, these things will be fashioned out and communication will be going out to the public on these matters as we go along. Having exhausted, I think that many of the questions were around the issues that you addressed, and you have beautifully addressed them, Mr. Agbeto, and we want to thank you very, very much for participating. And also thank all of you, our distinguished audience. We are 7 minutes out of the stipulated time, and we know that HR people take their time seriously. And so we would not want to unduly eat into your time. It's a Monday morning. We know you have a lot of work to do. Thank you very, very much for attending. Please do well to engage with the questionnaires once they are sent so that we can be able to engage with you more on some of these opportunities into the future. My name is Samir Obeng, and on behalf of the entire team at Parliamentary Network Africa, I thank you very much for joining. Have a good morning.
Good morning to you too. Thanks a lot, Samir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a blessed day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.